the jobs that I'm holding now didn't exist when I came out as a newly grad from college. And this is what I tell my daughters, right? Because they're both in university now. Make sure you build those strong skills of critical thinking, communication, problem solving, right? Because those are really foundational skills to be able to apply to anything that you decide to do. I have, one child that's very focused and knows what she's going to do. The other one, she's still trying to figure that out. I'm like, that's fine. This is the time to build those skills today because you can apply those as foundational skills for everything you do. And I think, as businesses and we start looking at, where the skill gaps are going to be, the more that we can understand what we have as skills within the organization, we will find talents that maybe, yes, they don't have that certain expertise in that particular area, but that's something you can teach people.
Dina, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Chris?
I'm good. Firstly, I'm good, and I'm so excited we're having this conversation. I feel like I've interviewed everyone in the team but you. I feel like what I don't know. Have
There's
you
quite
been?
a few of us. I don't think so.
Yeah. Have you been avoiding me?
No, none of that. None of
I'm
that.
only playing. Before we jump in, tell everyone a little bit about yourself personally and your journey to where we are now, because you have such an interesting background and journey.
Yeah, it's been an interesting career so far. 30 plus years. I hate to say that. Wow. Anyway, no, it's been great. I was thinking, I was reflecting on this, what would my 16 or 18-year-old self have been? I don't think they would have ever saw myself being here. I think I shared with you when I was 16, I really thought I was going to be a veterinarian in biology. And I think when I reflect back about my career, is about how narrow-minded I was on all my initially, and how as I've gone through and done different things in my career, I just keep opening up that view of like, oh, I can do things. So when I was 16, I realized I couldn't handle blood and guts. And then I decided, well, if I can't be a vet, I'm not going to do biology. Why? I don't know. And somehow my father convinced me to go into business, which was a great decision. But I said, Dad, I'm not going to be an accountant. No way. Right? What did I graduate with? A concentration in accounting. And I started my first 7 years of my career as a CPA, spending a couple of years in the UK. But then I decided, okay, I don't want to be a partner. I always thought I was going to be this
That's the
really
track.
straightforward
Yeah.
finance person.
Mm.
So then I was in finance, going to be in finance. I was going to move up, be VP or CFO someday. Then I get into Schneider, right? And I was a finance business partner, also doing HR, right? I was running both HR and finance, which was a crazy, crazy jump. But it opened my mind like, wow, I could do so much more, right? And so then now this career in Schneider, in my almost 18 years, I've done finance, HR, um, operations. Then I got into global DEI,
Mm.
and now I'm running learning, the
Wow.
operational side of learning the strategy and platforms and such governance of that.
Wow.
Never would have thought I would have gotten there, but each stage it wasn't intentional. Like the things that I did was a little bit of risk taking, but each time I just went a little bit further and I challenged myself. And I had good champions challenging me too to take some of these calculated risks, right? So
Yeah. I'm
it's
glad that
been
you
it's
mentioned
been an
about.
amazing career.
No, it's incredible, and it's quite rare. It becomes more and more rare that you find people that have been with an organization and had multiple careers within the same business, and that's something over the years, getting to know the team and the organization. That's part of the culture of
Absolutely.
what it means to work at Schneider. And
That
everyone I know has been like had 3 or 4 careers at
and
Schneider. Yeah.
that's what makes it great. And that's, part of the reason I've been here for 18 years is that you can keep building on yourself and learning from yourself, but building on those skills. And I think as, now skills has become like the conversation, like skills is the foundation. And when I reflect back, I'm like, I guess that's what my career is. I've always been focused on where can I best utilize my skills and where my skills can best be applied, right?
Yeah.
Um, and unintentional, but that's really what my career has been where can my skills be best applied?
Yeah.
And I think those consulting days, I've really played out building those consulting skills in my first 7 years of my career, play very well into all the things I've had to do from business partnering to HR business partnering. Now trying to do influencing and convincing as we're trying to really change some of the culture within Schneider around how do we do this skills transformation? How do we make sure we deliver the right skills at the right time? Those are, those are big, heavy transformational things, and you need to have those kind of consulting um, influencing and convincing skills, which I've built over this career in multiple ways and applied it in different roles.
Isn't it interesting that we never know at the time how useful that will be later in our career? Like I kind of look back
Absolutely.
on moments in my career and be like, why did I do that? And then now, like now and where I am, like wow, like that's the way that that's impacted what I do now and the experience. Whereas like at the time, I was like maybe probably didn't fully appreciate the work
Oh,
that
I
I was
absolutely
doing.
didn't appreciate, right? Finance and accounting was like all about those accounting skills. Meanwhile, really what I was doing was going out and meeting. What I loved about that job was going out and having the variety of meeting different clients, learning about their businesses, giving some advice back. I was really being able to help people make actions and learn from one another and that collective collaboration. And as I say, I like to break down silos. How do I make people connect and bring those ideas together? I mean, that's the fun of the job, right?
Yeah.
For me.
Part of your journey though is and what I find really interesting about this is that you're never really fully prepared. So going from finance to HR to DEI to learning excellence, how do you know when you are, like prepared to take that next step, or are you never? And the idea is that you
That's a good
as part
question.
of your culture is that you have these set of skills, which of course are complementary, but of course, you still then have to have the deeper knowledge when you move into DEI or learning. How do you manage that personally? And also, how does the business ensure that that's successful when they're thinking about that process?
For me, it's also sometimes I almost put, like I think I shared earlier when we were chatting, was, I put barriers up earlier in my career, like, oh, I don't have that skill, so I can't do that, right?
Mm.
Um, Luckily, my husband's probably my biggest champion and cheerleader, right? And I almost didn't take the job in Schneider. I almost didn't put my name in for the role because it was this perfect finance role, check, check, check. And the last line was, and you'll manage HR. And I'm like, I'm a finance person. Who manages HR? I know nothing. I don't know the legal side. And and I was like, I can't put my name in for this job. And my husband's like, no, what are you doing? Put your name in. What do you have to lose? They just don't call you back. Thank God I did because I wouldn't have had this amazing almost 18 years and also many exciting things to come as well, right? So don't put limitations on yourself. That was one of those big skills when I got in here. I was like, okay, I almost missed this great opportunity because I put a self-imposing barrier up, right? So that's a piece of advice out there. Don't do that, right? There's enough barriers out there to start. Just take those calculated risks. So luckily, I had a good cheerleader saying, "Come on, you can do this." And I think that experience of almost missing out on that has always played a little bit in my thoughts since then. Is like, what do I have to lose, right?
Mm.
Put your name in there. Um, as also having very good sponsors. So what I choose, I do calculate it as a Tina, my current manager says, you take calculated risk. I look at who is the manager and I also look at the team. So like when I took this job within learning, I'm not a learning person. I'm a finance
Yeah.
person with it had a little bit of been working with a DEI for 5 years prior to that, but it was about on the operational side, like how do we improve the way that we operate in this very matrix organization together. So I was like, okay, my skills, I can, do influence, convince. I'm an operational. I look for ways to improve constantly on that piece. And I love to manage teams. And I had not been managing a team for 8 years. And that was something I really missed. I was mentoring people to fill in that gap of not being able to develop a team. And I'm like, okay, I get this team back. But, I don't have learning experience. I don't know. I don't design learning programs. And it was great. One of the team members, when I met with them, I said, anybody have questions? Like, why this role? Why did you pick this role?
Great question.
And it was a great question. I was
That's
like,
a great question.
wow, that's a great question. And I like give you kudos for asking that right in the first meeting together. And I said, look, I'm looking for something that was going to stretch me, right? This is my stretch to learn more about learning. Um, but I looked at the team and I said I wanted to have a team again. And I looked at the team and I said, there's a bunch of great experts here, right? So I said, you guys are the experts, right? My job here is to block and tackle to help you get things through. How do we get the strategy we want to do? And my job is hopefully I'll learn along from you guys to become a better, more diversified leader as a result. And it's been a lot of fun, right? I am learning a lot. I'm learning a lot every day. And I have a lot of appreciation for some of the complexities that maybe I didn't have before. But I also saw within the organization that we needed to break down silos. And that's something I think I'm very good at is making connections and seeing who needs to work together. That's true in all the jobs that I've done, is just really getting to know people. So then you kind of have those working relationships and you're kind of like, hey, why don't you guys work on that idea together? Right. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's really been what the driver of that is. It's those calculated things. I like to learn. I'm a person that likes to learn, right? I get bored after a period of time
Yeah,
if
me
I'm
too.
doing the same thing over and over. And I know when I get bored, my productivity, my energy level drops. I'm a high energy person. I like to make sure that I'm having fun when I'm doing it too.
I
So
love that.
yeah.
I think it says a lot, by the way, that when you had that meeting, that you had the psychological safety in the room that someone could ask you that question on day one. I think
I
that's
yeah,
that,
I was
because in most companies that just wouldn't happen. Let's be honest. But then also the fact that you led with humility to say, "Hey, I don't have all the answers. Like my job is not to come in here and tell all of you what to do. Right? I'm not the
no,
experts here."
absolutely.
And that sends a very clear message to that team that's going to unlock a level of engagement and productivity and excitement. Quite honestly, that okay, this is really interesting. Like whereas the fear is always is someone's coming in and now they're going to change everything up and say this is how we're going
Oh,
to do it. But the fact that you had that conversation so early on is huge.
I give that team member lots of credit for asking that, right? It was the last question of the meeting, but it was a great one.
Yeah,
But I took, with this one, especially when I don't really know, I really took time and I was given that time that the first 3 to 4 months, I just met people, listened, which is hard for me, and sitting there. Now, of course, I was listening and already starting calculating and making some ideas, but I didn't start
yeah,
telling ideas, right? I would drop some ideas into conversations. Well, what do you guys think about that? Or why
explore.
haven't we done this?
Mm.
But then I had the opportunity to bring all of us together for a few days or hybrid in that tight stage because it was coming out of COVID. But where we kind of thought through those ideas and had a little discussion. I got everybody. By then, people had already been percolating some of those ideas, so it wasn't like, oh, she's coming in and changing that. But they had time to think about that too and add their feedback in. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way. I guess if you're a strength finders person, which I fell in love with them early on. I'm a wooer. Or as my husband might say, is a manipulator, but I'm a wooer.
Yeah. What
A
would you?
wooer and a communicator is my, two things that I like to focus on. But it's about how do we bring people together? Because together is how you achieve. You don't achieve on your own,
Yeah,
right? And you need to bring people along with you if you're really going to have success.
I agree. What was the biggest takeaways for you from that listening tour?
Just amazing about the number of people, just the expertise that we have and ideas that people had, but also that we sometimes we're always in this action mode that we don't always look out to see what other people's are doing. And we kind of do our own thing, not realizing that probably two doors down, someone else is doing that, or someone two countries over is doing the same thing. So it's really around how do we make sure that we're leveraging the expertise across the organization, but communicating. And it's hard when you're in a big organization. Sometimes just those communication channels aren't as easily, or we all just want to achieve and do our best for the overall company and for the team. But sometimes I think stepping back and trying to see if there's somebody else already doing that too, we need to
Yeah,
take that time.
happens a lot, especially in an organization like a global business like
Yeah,
yours.
but
Like,
I think that's true in life too,
yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah,
Across any, or I think that's true in any organization I've worked in, even smaller ones, right? Just sometimes we're so focused on, we need to achieve this for the success of the business or success in our own personal lives or whatever. Sometimes just taking back and like seeing if there's other people out there or reaching out to your network and learning from one another is sometimes the best investment too.
yeah. So you had those conversations. How long you been in the role now?
3.5 years.
Oh wow. So it's been a it's been a while then. Let's jump into what's really top of mind for you right now. What's the sort of some of the key priorities for you and the team that you're really excited about?
Oh, for me, it's just about this whole how do we make skills the foundation of everything we do, right? Because I do think, looking back at my career, I'm kind of like, yeah, it was skills, right? And I think that's so true. Is what can you bring? How do we unleash and find um, those skills? Excuse me. So, like, the jobs that I'm holding now didn't exist when I came out as a newly grad from college. And this is what I tell my daughters, right? Because they're both in university now. They did go the science route. They went the biology route and going that piece. I said, but just make sure you build those strong skills of critical thinking, communication, problem solving, right? Because those are really foundational skills to be able to apply to anything that you decide to do. I have, one child that's very focused and knows what she's going to do. The other one still, well, she's early in her university experience, but she's still trying to figure that out. I'm like, that's fine. This is the time to build those skills today because you can apply those as foundational skills for everything you do. And I think, as businesses and we start looking at, where the skill gaps are going to be, the more that we can understand what we have as skills within the organization, we will find talents that maybe, yes, they don't have that certain expertise in that particular area, but that's something you can teach people.
Yeah.
Certain, like our industry, you can teach people. You can teach people about sustainability. Those skills about problem solving and critical thinking are really hard. Well, those are things that you kind of have to build early on and continue to develop, right? And those can be applied to so many different types of functions too. Um, Being able to be a collaborator or a team builder, those are other skills that are out there. So I think it's how do we find those critical skills that are within the organization? They might be in people that aren't following the typical path that you thought they would be. So I'm excited about what that's going to unleash.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of work to make sure we get the tools in place, the structure in place, the governance in place, and keep going at the speed with the amount of change that is happening
Yeah.
on a daily basis, right? Or almost hourly sometimes.
Well, walk us through that journey because you've been on the skills journey for a while, right? Because I know from speaking to the team, how has that evolved from where you started to how you're now looking at how you become a skills-based organization, especially as the technology itself is also
I think
changed so
again, it's
much.
just we had a really strong buy-in from the top, right? You have to have your leadership has to totally be into the concept of this as well, in which we have. We have strong leadership across that. And then it's looking at the right tools to be able to do that, but you have to have the right structure. Like what is the overall outcome that you want to achieve with that? And we see it as like the red thread through everything that we do from recruiting all the way to performance and so who knows in the future remuneration too. So again, that piece there, and then like finding the right solution for it now. Now the thing is, this is the solution of today, right? But things are changing and evolving, and hopefully you're picking partners that are going to change and evolve with you at that stage. But now with everything being open platforms and things along that, it gives some flexibility if it's in the future things go a different way, right? But who
Hmm.
knows? I mean, the future changes
No,
every
you're
day.
right.
Like,
Like,
and what we hope is that our partners are with us on that journey as well, and looking ahead, and I think we are picking those kind of partners today.
yeah, it's interesting because the way in which you're a perfect example of your personal career journey, how it's been focused around those core skills, like to call power skills, that are
We call
transferred,
them human. We call them human skills.
human skills, right? That are transferred. I just don't like saying the word soft skills. I just don't like that.
Neither do I,
It
because
drives
they're
me.
not soft.
Yeah, yeah. It just drives me. I just don't like that word. So yeah, I'm with you. Humans, great. I like because that's transferable, right? Like as you've shown in your own career. But then, how do you do that at scale? And then how do you then link that back to the business priorities, right? So that
Yep.
there's clear outcomes that you're working towards. Because
Yep.
you're right, you have so many untapped skills that exist in different pockets of the business that you just have no idea, right? In the past,
Yep.
to be able to be there to find them.
I think it's about where's that data repository of that information, which we're still building, right?
Hmm.
And it comes back to data quality, right? So everything's got to be how do we make sure everything stays up to date? How can we also give employees more self-service to be able to keep those kind of data points up to date, right? So
Yeah,
that's all coming. We're still in that journey.
it's
It's
still
still
on that
early.
journey.
So
What's been the
yeah.
reaction though to from employees in terms of like,
Um,
and how have you?
I think,
What
it's
advice would
still
you give?
coming. It's
Okay.
still coming, right? So, we've had our open talent marketplace, which has enabled people to find projects and mentors and ways to develop their careers. I think, it's where do we take this and continue to modernize that, right? So we're on
Hmm.
that journey.
Yeah.
But it's been, that was very responsive because it opened up, especially when you're a really big company, opportunities to find things that maybe aren't, in your country or in your city that you're able to at least try these things, especially, projects where you get to work across many cross-functional or maybe different cultures. It's kind of exciting to be able to open that up
Yeah.
and have those opportunities. I wish I had those kind of things when I was. Um,
Me too. I think
younger,
I probably
right?
wouldn't have left my last. I was in the same role with my last before I started this company. I was in the same job for 10 years in the exact same role,
Yep,
and I only left because I just like I just felt like my growth just hit a ceiling, and I asked for opportunities. Like I know I'm a sales director and I've been in sales since I was 17. I've been here for 10 years. I just want more opportunity to go somewhere else, and there just wasn't a path for me, and that led
yep,
to me leaving the
yep,
business. Right, I didn't want to leave
yep.
the
Well, I think,
organization, but I just
well, if I
didn't.
look at mine, I get, like I said, I'd say it's 5 year cycles. It may be longer, but like why did I go to England after 4 years in working in as a CPA in Boston? Because I was getting bored. So what did I do? I stayed with the company, but I went to a different country,
Mm,
right? And that added, energized me, did something different, whatever. And then I'm like, okay, I need to go back to the US if I'm going to be a partner, just because where I could see at the time where London's business world was. I was an American, and so I wasn't going to proceed to do as well there. So I moved back to the States, and within 6 months, I was like, nah, it wasn't the environment, it was the job. I need to change my job, and so I jumped. So if you look at the first, I always laugh when everybody's like, oh, the millennials, when I was now it's the Gen Zs, they jump jobs so much in their career, but oh, I look back at my career, my first 15 years, I think I was in 5 or 6 different companies, right? But it was because I was looking for, I do that and it would get a little bit finance. Okay, what do I want to do that's a little bit different? Let's jump to a different industry. But then, when you land, and I landed here, right? And this company has enabled me to do reiterations of myself, try different things, doing different opportunities. And I think that's hugely why I'm still here. The opportunities to try different things, to utilize my skills and to push myself
yeah.
and try calculated risks,
And
which is
that's why I think
fantastic.
and that's why I think like also like the talent marketplace unlocks so much of that, where you get to work on projects with different people and different teams from different parts of the world that you would never normally interact with, and that's super exciting and engaging that you're being
Yeah,
challenged in new ways. And of course the business benefits from that, of course,
absolutely.
as well. But it is a big cultural change of the way of working. Could you talk to that a little bit? Because, that's a big change from the traditional ways of working that I've grew up in.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I think a lot of the big, when you're a big company, but even I'm trying to think if you could apply that into a smaller company. Like if you think about if you're in a startup company, you can kind of hear those things. You're getting to do different projects because there's fewer
That's, yeah,
hats
me.
or
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
hats being worn by
Hmm.
fewer people, right? So you get that piece here. I think by bringing that kind of that open talent marketplace, you're bringing a little bit of um, that environment in because you're getting to have the opportunity to go work on a project that's utilizing some of your skills, but maybe in a different part, and you come back to your job, right? Or you're doing this while you're doing your other job. It just adds a little bit more energy to your day, adds a little bit of variety, right? And
Yeah.
an opportunity to explore. Um, like I said, with like I wish we'd had those kind of things when I was this age, when that was the age of our Gen Z and millennial people, but it wasn't there. I did it by changing jobs, right? And changing companies. So now we can do that within your own bigger
Yeah.
companies by finding these opportunities to kind of jazz you up a little bit about the different things that you get opportunities to do. Um, it's like with my kids with the internet. The reason they got on some of their like coming down and going, I'm going to be a neuroscientist. I'm like, what's a neuroscientist? They've been on the internet, right? They had some idea or saw something and they went and explored and they were like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go be a neuroscientist. I had no idea. And she goes, well, how did you do that? I was looking this up on the internet. And I'm like, okay, that's a good use of the internet, right? And, opening up the things because I didn't have those opportunities to see what other careers and pieces were. Hence, from I can't be a vet, I'm not going to do biology. And then you end up in business school. So it's just because
Yeah.
of some influence there from conversations with your parents. But
Yeah, my
yeah.
6-year-old came to me a few weeks ago, and she said, "Daddy, I want to start my own company like you and Mummy." And I was like, "Okay, what do you want to do?" And she was like, "I've been thinking about it, and I'm gonna start my own peanut butter company." I was like,
There
"What?"
you go.
I was like, "What?" And she's like, "I love peanut butter. I should have it all the time. Kids love peanut butter. but she's like, there's not enough flavors of peanut butter. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, I want to make strawberry peanut butter and banana peanut butter. And she had this whole plan basically of how she's gonna create a peanut butter company. And then she's like, how do we do it? And I was like, you're six, first and foremost, so this is strange having a but she sees me and my wife, like, she's in the studio all the time. She sees what we're doing with the
She
company.
sees it, right? And so
Yeah,
that's the environment that she gets exposed to, and probably even through maybe listening to some of the conversations you have too. Like that's
yeah,
great. I mean, that's a kid. The opportunities of this digital world is opening up so many opportunities for our younger generations to see and hear what other people do,
yeah.
right? I think that's one of the positive things of the digital world when it comes to like exposing our younger generations to opportunities.
Yeah. One of the challenges, and I'm not sure if you experience it internally, that I hear from a lot of your peers is they're going through the skills based sort of transformation, and some of them are really struggling with, their leadership and managers moving from being, talent importers to talent exporters. Or talent hoarders, as they would say, actually, and that seems to be a challenge for many. I'm not sure something you,
I am not. I mean, it's interesting. That has not been my experience with here, right? At least, I mean, I had this great manager at one point, and he said to me, "My job is to develop my successor," right? And he goes, "That's really the job of a leader is to develop find the people and develop them to be your successor." And that really stuck with me as well. And then I think about opportunity. Yeah, I have some great talents, and there's some opportunities that are coming up. I'm like, oh, there's this great role that's coming up,
yeah,
and we're gonna, obviously we want them to, continue to have amazing careers within Schneider. I would love to keep them in my team and hoard their skills, but that's not to the benefit of that person, nor, to be honest, to the organization. I think we have to be open to not hoarding, but sharing, because you know what? If you share, other people will share back with you, and you're going to get some amazing uh, uh, people coming in
yeah.
and new ideas, diversity of ideas, and experience to make us all a little bit stronger.
Yeah. Talking of diversity of ideas, like what were some of the biggest lessons or learnings that you brought from your DEI role into this new role that you have now?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it's more that, everybody has different experiences and expertise, right? So I'm a very collaborative. If you ask my team, I'm a collaborative team. When we have our biweekly meetings, we meet for an hour and a half. My team is from China to Mexico, so there's some of us that are working really early and some that are working late, but it's really focused on a particular problem, and we come together, the eight of us, from our different experiences, and use it as a sounding board for whoever that problem is, right? Because sometimes we don't think through those things, or there may be some aspect that we've missed today. And yeah, I think that's the way that you get the benefit of hearing from other people that have been to different parts a lot of my team have been here for 15, 20 years
Yeah.
within the company, right? But they have all come from different aspects of the business. Maybe some are deep learning experts, maybe somebody that came from the business and is now, being more of had been an SME, those kind of aspects about that, or they're coming straight from a digital mindset, right? And that makes us stronger and helps us get more um, cohesiveness as we go out and try to convince the bigger and broader organization that this is what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's super
Really
important.
leaning in that everybody's got experiences and skills that can drive that. And I also like to understand what kind of skill sets I have within my team so that when we're picking things like, hey, you're working on that, go work with that person because they've done that before, or they've got that kind of experience. I brought in a digital marketing person into the team because I think that's going to be more and more about how do we bring
100%.
more eyes?
Yeah.
How do we bring the eyes to our content,
I'm
right?
so
So
happy you
having
just
those
said that.
skills.
I've been telling a lot of your peers you need that role in the organization. That's such a missing piece, especially now how from an employee brand perspective, like, and any program that you create, it needs to have its own identity, its own brand, something people are going to remember, and that's a skill that's typically not within the function.
And I
So,
think, we're big into communities at work, or we call it communities at work. It's communities of practice, right? So we have a program here, and that's my digital marketer. I brought her in to run that group, and she's challenging how we use the tools, how we talk about it. But I think, it's been really refreshing, and I think as we go through this skills transformation and user experience or employee experience, having digital marketing skills are going to be key. Because let's be honest, we all have so many things that are being asking us to look at, read, view,
100%.
watch, listen to. Um, how do we convince them that your asset is the asset that they need to listen to, watch, engage with, right? And so I think the skills of being
Yeah.
able to
Well, it's the
convince
same,
people,
like, it's the same way
pull
we,
people in.
yeah. And we've been doing that in marketing for a long time with our customers and creating a personalized experience and communication strategy for our customers, but we're not doing that for our employees. So I think that's just, and now we also have the technology to be able to do that. So like wherever, those sort of moments that matter within the employee
Yep,
life cycle, you can really tailor your
absolutely.
communication to them, whether it's around like big moments in their life or their specific benefits that are available to them, whatever that may be. In the past, it was sort of just one size fits
Fits all.
all approach to that, and then we can get into learning after, but that's the same.
Yeah, no, and I think,
Yeah, yeah,
we're investing, you're putting dollars behind these different programs, and you want to make sure you get the eyes and the people engaging, but you also want to make sure they're learning, right? They're
yeah,
walking away with some kind of sticky experience, um, be it
yeah,
just one piece of information or a bunch of piece of information that they can walk away and apply.
yeah.
Um, but it's hard. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I get home, the last thing I want to, because I'm looking at a Zoom or a Teams meeting, for 5 hours every morning as I meet across my team. I'm tired of looking at a screen when I get home, right? I'm
Yeah.
tired of looking at my phone. It's digital fatigue at times, right? So, what am I going to spend my, eyes watching when I get home, right?
It's
It's
interesting because
it's
now
scary.
you've got like tools that you can filter out stuff so you can only see what you want. But then there's a risk there that you don't have diversity and you're just holding up a mirror.
Absolutely.
So it's also like I have a couple of different plugins and tools that I have that intentionally show me different perspectives on different topics so that I don't just kind of see a reflection of my own views, because that's how a lot of these search engines work, or a lot of these email platforms work, is whatever you're putting in is what you ever get back.
Absolutely.
So it's
And
important.
that's
Yeah,
well, I think it's kind of some of the problems we have today, but that we only see what, based upon what you say or your interest, but how do you learn, right? How
yeah.
do you see? Um, Again, that's good. With my husband and I have a different views sometimes on different movies and things. So we explore different things. He's opened up like um, genres that I may have not looked at in the
That's a
past,
good.
right?
That's a
And
good.
and
That's a
vice
good
versa,
analogy.
right? So
Yeah,
so luckily we share the same Netflix account. So
yeah. You can see.
whatever I pick and he picks. So when you say, "Hey, you're my interested in that," he's like, "How did that one pop?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was watching something there."
Yeah, I'm same with my wife. I'm like,
So
I'm like, why was you
versus
watching
versus
this?
breaking it down by person, we all share the one account, and even my girls, so that sometimes we see things that pop up. We're like, okay,
Yeah,
but
it's
that
always
adds
fun.
variety to our list.
It's true. How have you a lot of right now, especially given the age of AI, everyone's kind of like sort of looking at reimagining the learning experience, creating customizable learning pathways. Kind of where are you on that journey? Because it's we've gone from like online courses to micro learning to it's
Yeah,
transforming pretty fast.
I think, for us, everybody learns a little bit different. So you got to make sure you have that diversity. So some people want the short pieces, but other people we need certifications for, right? They need the full certification, or they want to complete a full course. I am also a big believer, if you're really going to learn, it's not the micro learnings. It may be micro learnings so you can take it in bite size, but I do think if you're really going to apply, it's some deeper learning that you need to have. But that's my personal style, right? Someone else's style might be totally different. We do think, you need some learning recommendations. So, if we have we recently rolled out Coursera across the enterprise, right? 10,000 courses. I don't know. I still equate it to why we need what we do, but we've built learning paths for different skills, and then for different job, there's different job family pages that were built with different skills. So there's some recommendation. Because for me, I don't know, when I was redoing my house 15, 20 years ago, maybe, and the contractor said, "Hey, I need you to go pick out tiles. So go, here's the tile store." I walked into the tile store. I was
Yeah,
like, I don't even know where to go,
yeah,
what to do. I don't know what's in my price. I turned around. I looked at my husband. I'm like, I can't. And I turned around and we walked out. Then we went back with the contractor, and he's like, "Here's what's in your price range. Here's what." And then I could pick out stuff. But I feel like that's kind of sometimes when we're giving these learning platforms that have amazing content, but if you just give it and you don't give direction and stuff,
Yeah.
maybe for 20%, I think they say, or there's natural learners that will go and just give it and they'll go figure it
Sure.
out. But most of us are in that 50, 55% that are like, I need a little direction or I need help finding what to do, right? And maybe, and then there's some that just want to be told exactly what to do, which is fine too. And I think that's where we have to make sure, and that's where we are building learning paths or learning recommendations to guide people. And then once you start doing that, the tools start telling you, hey, you took this course, maybe you want to take that course, or we keep refreshing those learning recommendations so that, there's fresh suggestions there. But
Yeah.
I think overall, most of us need a little bit of guidance because 10,000 courses, 5,000 courses, whatever, whatever the platform you pick, even 100 courses, that's still a lot.
It's
What
too
what do
much.
you pick out of those?
Yeah. I love this topic, by the way, and I've been really deep in this for the last 3 years because we built Atlas, our AI co-pilot, for all of our content because we realized we had 50,000 hours of content, like literally, like 20 years of me, 1,500 episodes just of this podcast, let alone
Yes.
all of the events that we do every single month all over the world. We have our AI summit, we have our DEI summit, we have our people. We had so much content. And then we built Atlas. My co-founder is a guy called Guillermo Miranda. He's a former chief learning officer for IBM and Boeing. He joined the team. I remember one of the first conversations I had, he's like, Chris, right now, it's like walking into the supermarket and you just see all the ingredients, right? But
Exactly.
you don't know what meal you're making. You don't even know what meal you're making, let alone the ingredients you need. And I remember him saying that. It stuck in my head. He was like, we need to figure out how do we like give people the recipe and then recommend. And it's kind of he said it way better than I just did, but it was similar like to what you described on that experience. So what we did
That's
is
the grocery store for me too.
yeah. It's
My
yeah.
husband's the cook in our family. I'm like, I go to the grocery store. I'm like, I need a list. I need to know exactly what we're fixing. That's so I can navigate. If I walk in
I
there like,
agree.
I need to go, we just need food. I'm like, oh, I can't do this.
I don't know how people do that. And then you walk around about 20 times in the same
My husband's
area.
always like, why does it take 45 minutes for you to go grocery shopping? It takes me like 10. I'm like, because you just, in your head what you're making. I go,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. Where is it?
I'm terrible at that. So what we did with Atlas, obviously we trained it on all of the content, like the practitioner insights and perspectives that we have. We also then plugged in all of our partner data from Gartner, McKinsey, Boston Consulting, Harvard Business Review. So we brought in
Yep.
all their research, and then we actually included our partners, our clients' data, i.e., if it was your own data, into there, and then the learner, when they're interacting with Atlas in the chat, like you would with ChatGPT, based on what you're asking, it starts to recommend the learning pathways, and you click on a button that says learn, and then what it does is asks a few level setting questions, just kind of to gauge your level of experience, and then it
Yep.
generates the learning pathway like using AI. So it like does it within a couple of minutes to generate. But the difference is, and I think this is kind of where we need to move to, is it's great having the predefined courses, but they're just generic videos that don't understand the context of the business or the individual.
Uh-huh.
So what we've been able to do now is like break that down so it understands this is sort of the core business strategy or department strategy. This is the person. It knows your job title, it knows who you are, etc. Your skills because it's connected to the business and the other platforms, and then it builds the learning pathway. But one of the cool things we had recently is like you can say how you want it. So if you want it just video, it will give it to you in video. If you want to, I
Yep.
actually always do mine in voice. So I actually have a conversation. So every single module is me having a chat with our AI. So if I have to give
That's cool.
feedback and it tells me how good my feedback was and it says, you want to try again, Chris? And then I do it
That's
again.
great.
And then it also does it in any language. So like for the first time, it took us 2 years to get to this point. We know the technology just wasn't there to be able to do it. But it's now taking all of those thousands of hours of content we have, and then you take the learning pathway, and then it shows little icons if like you want to see where this has been pulled from, so you know the reference
Yep.
material. But like I feel like that's so exciting now that we actually can meet people where they're at and truly make it like equitable, and we can do it at scale in any language. And just again, I love listening and watching. If it's text, I really struggle to retain it. And
Yep.
I think it's just such an exciting time, like to be
Yeah,
able
I
to
think
do
it
this.
is. No, I think it's, and I think that's, at least where our partners are going and where where our vision is too, is we want it to be as personalized as possible, right?
Yeah,
Especially um, some of the important learning, things that are important for the safety or for the health
sure.
of, and so, right? But some of it's the content or the meaning doesn't change that much. It's more about how much have you retained and where do you, hey, what was that piece of thing that I needed to know
Yeah,
and how do I get to that? It's coming. I think the technology, at least it's being built.
yeah,
Um, it'll evolve and it will get faster and better. But yeah,
yeah,
I see a future of that for sure. We're still on that journey
yeah.
as
I'm excited to see what you're up to on that journey.
as an industry too.
As an industry, I agree. Like I'm seeing now, like also like learning is really becoming a team sport. And one of the things that I've been seeing, once you create like learning pathways, you can share that with your colleagues. And I thought that was something that would be like maybe two people or a couple of people will use it. It's the most used thing in our platform.
Really,
Yeah,
that's
and
amazing.
we don't
Yeah,
sell.
again, it's about sharing.
Yeah, they
It's
literally.
the social learning. It's the social learning
Yeah,
bit, right? Because again, if your peer says, "Hey, this is a great course," you're going to believe that versus the tool saying, "Here's a great course," right?
yeah,
It's that whole community aspect of it, right? So,
mm,
um, or a piece of a piece of information that comes from a particular community piece that I see in the world that we're going. We really want to bring in our communities of practice into that learning journey because again, you want to ask an expert that's sitting in your communities of practice, right?
yeah.
Hey, I had this piece, I had this question, boom, whatever, and then you can get back into your learning pathway. We're not there, but yeah, but that is kind of the vision that we have
It's
as well.
exciting. As you look forward in the next, before we wrap up, like moving forward, what are you most excited about? Looking ahead.
Oh my gosh, there's so much excitement about. I do think with what AI is bringing in AI enablement, as much as we need to be cautious and make sure that the ethical pieces and the and bias free, I do think it's going to be able to really enable us to learn faster and get information there and upskill ourselves at a faster pace. I'm excited for my team because I think some of the AI enabled tools will help us be able to churn out the content faster. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it can take up to 6 months from the time of just trying to get the SME to get you content. That can take sometimes 3 months just to get the content in a way. I think with the way the AI is coming in the future, um, we'll be able to, that 6 months could be weeks versus weeks or a month or two versus like a half a year or longer, or faster, right? And then if
Yeah.
things change, you can quickly change it and keep it up to date. I think that, a lot of the challenge we have sometimes with content is, yeah, it's still relevant, but it was done 5 years ago and it looks and feels like it was done 5 years ago.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
the thing is with people today, if it looks and feels old, you start discounting that the content is relevant, right? And so you have to kind of keep it that fresh, new place for people to really believe, yes, this content is relevant. If your example is 5 years old, they're not going to believe it, right? Or they're going to discount it. So this is the challenge of how do you keep up with just the ever changing. So I'm excited about how AI and the AI tools are going to enable us to be able to really augment and meet the challenges of the future of trying to keep up at the speed that we need to keep up with.
Well, you said
So
earlier in our conversation that you love learning, so you're in the right job. So, hence, you're definitely going to be kept busy.
I am, yes, and it's fun. And like I said, I have an amazing team, an amazing group of colleagues and peers that I work with on a daily basis. So we're
Yeah.
all challenging each other and collectively working towards what we want to achieve, which is to upskill our employees to be ready
Yeah.
for today and tomorrow.
Before I let you go, Dina, what would be like your parting advice for others that are listening that are maybe just starting their journey, in this space?
So my first piece of advice, I think I said early on, was don't put internal barriers up, right? Do not let those stop you from putting your name in, right? Because like I said, I wouldn't have been in this amazing role that I had been if I had listened to myself and not to my champions. And the other thing is get a good group of a sounding board, be it one, two,
Yeah.
or maybe 3 or 4 people that you trust. That could be people that you work with. It could be people that you've worked with before. I go and I have a couple of business partners that I worked with in previous jobs that I call up when I'm thinking about a change in my career. My husband's on that sounding board, obviously, too. But, it's those people that you trust that you can have those conversations and they know you well enough to say, yes or no. Is that where you make that calculated risk? So, but, you know, take chances, right? if you don't put your name in, this is what I tell my daughters all the time. Put the resume in, apply, try, because if you don't try, you'll definitely not get it, right? But you definitely have to take those kind of calculated risks. And if you get it, and I also say when you look for a job, if you do not have like a pit in your stomach, a little bit about that job, meaning, can I do it? Like that sucking in and going, can I do it?
Yeah,
If you don't have that feeling about the job, don't take the job
such a
because
good
that's
advice.
the piece that that's the little bit of energy that's going to push you through to take that risk, right? And challenge you because you need to be challenged
Yeah,
to
I love that. I talk about that all the time. Me and Shane, we describe it as seek discomfort. Like that's like
great term.
we talk about that all the time in everything we do. That if we don't have that feeling, we're probably not challenging ourselves or our products or what we're offering to customers. Like so, we're like it's this term that's used in our office a lot, like seek discomfort.
Yeah, mine's that physical, like in the stomach clenching in a little bit, like, can I
Yeah,
do it? Right. But yeah.
but also there's part of that. The more you do it, it's like putting the reps in. So for me,
Yep,
that becomes my
exactly.
default, if that makes sense. Like whereas most people will see that as like scary, I now it sounds weird, but when I feel that, I get excited.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
like it's just a framing changed. And so and I suppose rather than oh what if I fail, but like what if you don't?
Yeah.
like just flip the framing of it around.
And if you fail, you learn
You
from
learn
that failure. Like like you learn
exactly
to be honest, you learn so much when you do make mistakes, right? Because you ain't gonna make that. Hopefully you don't make that mistake again,
a hundred
right? But
percent.
that's where you learn fast. But fail fast, learn fast, right? And then and don't do it again.
Yeah. I'm like I always say to my friends like don't rob yourself of the opportunity to fail and they're like what do you mean
Yeah.
like, I'm like no it's like like and I do that with my team I try to step out the way because I used to try and save them from everything in the past I'm like actually I'm robbing them of the opportunity to learn from that so it's my job is
Yep.
not to always come in and be trying like save the day actually let me just step back and let this play out and they'll learn from that and become
Yep.
better from that as well so I had to kind of let go of the reins at certain points, which was tough.
And it goes not just for professional but also personal.
Oh my
Raising
daughter, yeah,
kids.
we can have a whole we can have a whole another conversation about that. My 6-year-old right now.
Absolutely.
But listen, Dina, thanks so much for coming. I'm so happy we managed to chat
Thank you, Chris.
and I appreciate you sharing your experience. I think it's just really important, like given your background and journey, many people probably thought that wasn't possible for them listening right now, but you're probably giving
Yep.
them a different perspective,
Yep.
of of why not me? Why shouldn't I put myself forward for that? So
Absolutely.
you're a great example of that. So I really appreciate you sharing that with
Thank
everyone.
you.
And
Thank you. It's been fun. It's
yeah,
been fun.
and I wish you all the
And
best
I
until
keep,
we next speak.
oh, yes, you too.